Anorexia has the highest mortality rate of all mental illnesses, and 1 in 5 people who have anorexia will die. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Chloe, I'm a personal trainer and nutrition coach, and today's video is going to be a little different. Today's video is going to be about how I recovered from my eating disorder. So I haven't done a video on my eating disorder yet, and I'm not too sure whether I'm going to, and if I do, I think I might do it around December time, around Christmas, because Christmas for me was always the worst time of the year, and it is for anyone who's suffering from an eating disorder. Today's video is going to be purely focused on recovery. So if you've clicked on this, then you could be someone who's suffering, or maybe you've got a friend who's suffering, or you could be a carer for someone who is suffering and just want some kind of inspiration maybe and some ideas on what could help someone recover. So obviously, like a little disclaimer, I'm not qualified in eating disorders, and this is just my personal experience, and obviously I am fully recovered now, so I think it's important to share my story and also show that recovery is possible. So if some of you don't know, I am a BEAT ambassador, so I am an ambassador for the UK's leading eating disorder charity, BEAT. I will put their information in the description box. That's really important if you are suffering or if you're a carer, because they have free helplines, they've got support groups, loads of information about eating disorders, so even if you're just interested, there's so much stuff that I work with BEAT really closely. I'm going to a conference next week in Birmingham to talk to dietitians, clinicians. I go to schools, I go to universities, treatment centres, just to share my story, and only someone who's been through it can really understand the pain and the traumatic experience that it is for anyone who is suffering. Just 2 days ago I was at the Houses of Parliament talking about a new study that's just been done on the impact of delayed treatment for eating disorders. So we were talking to MPs, campaigners, charity organisations, Jeremy Hunt was there as well. So it was a really important day, the government aware as well what the impact is of delayed treatment, which is basically costing the NHS more money in the long term. If you don't know much about eating disorders, anorexia has the highest mortality rate of all mental illnesses, and 1 in 5 people who have anorexia will die. That will either be from a physical reason like organ failure or from suicide. To me, it's really important that I post this video, because if this could potentially save someone's life, then to me that's worth anything. In 2015, and this is just diagnosed, like what's been shown to the government, it's not, obviously the numbers are actually going to be higher, but 725,000 people in the UK were affected by eating disorders. 10% were anorexic, 40% were bulimic, and the rest were EDNOS, which is eating disorder not otherwise specified, which is basically like severe disordered eating, but it doesn't come under the spectrum of anorexia or bulimia. Binge eating does come under EDNOS. So that was in 2015, and the numbers are basically only going up at the moment, which is not a good thing, and that is only those who are diagnosed. So obviously a lot of eating disorders do not go diagnosed. We're talking about recovery today. So the first thing I think is really important to highlight is that recovery has to come from either you, if you're suffering, the person who is suffering, basically it has to come from them. If it doesn't come from them, then recovery won't be possible, because they can recover, they can get out of treatment, but relapse is very likely. So it has to come from the person, and I think that also starts with self-compassion and self-love. A lot of the time people with eating disorders really do not like themselves, and they don't really have a lot of self-esteem, they don't have confidence, they don't really think they're worthy of living. So I'll talk in my experience, I didn't feel really worthy of anything, of anyone. I was just consumed by my eating disorder, and my eating disorder kind of made me believe that I shouldn't really listen to anyone or trust anyone. So it's really important that you can put that voice to one side and really trust you, and know that you need to look after yourself, and that recovery has to come from you. I think that's the first step to recovery, is knowing that it comes from you. So with me, when I had anorexia, I got help, but unfortunately the first time I did recover for everyone else. So I just thought, right, I'm just going to put on the weight and everyone will leave me alone, which is actually the eating disorder telling you that. So I did put on all the weight and to a healthy BMI, but I still had the eating disorder. So 3 years later, of course, I relapsed. I relapsed worse than the first time I was ill. I had to go to the doctors because my feet actually swelled up at work from, I had edema, which is lack of proteins in the body and malnutrition. So I just basically felt like I'd hit rock bottom, and that time I really wanted to get better. I just remember coming home to my parents and I just sat in the conservatory and I just cried, and I just wanted to be free. I just didn't want this anymore, and I just wanted to have Chloe back that I'd lost 3 years ago. So that time was the time that I actually really wanted to recover. Luckily, our doctor was a family friend and I allowed him to speak to my mum, and he gave her the name of a private therapist, because sadly where we live the NHS isn't great and it's not a great system. And just to show you, a whole folder here full of bits of paper and writing and everything is all of my stuff from when I was ill, and it's stuff from like my mum writing all these like notes down, everything, her trying her hardest to find consultants and stuff in our area and treatments for me. There's like weight graphs and stuff in here from my doctors, and obviously my mum did take me to the doctor before I got ill the first time, but they dismissed it because they said that my BMI was still healthy. So that's another story. That'll be for more of the story when I talk about my actual disorder, but today we're focusing on recovery. So yeah, then they got the number of this private therapist. I was very nervous because obviously the eating disorder didn't want me to let anyone else in. But she had suffered herself, and I was quite open to that because I thought if she's been through it, maybe she'll understand. And she was a psychodynamic therapist. So I'll put that on the screen if any of you want to go and Google it, and I'll put some links below. And that working with any trauma. And trauma doesn't have to be like something big. It can be, a trauma can be something that traumatizes you, and it could be something really small, like just being like bullied at school, or maybe being left out, having a difficult childhood. It doesn't have to be anything dramatic like death, or like you have to be abandoned, physically abandoned. It can be something that you internalise as abandonment as a child. So you work through your inner child wounding and all of that stuff. So we never actually spoke about food, we never spoke about weight, but she was really, really important for my second time when I really wanted to recover. So I think when you're starting to recover, you have to be really, really want it. And some ways that I've found helpful for me and I suggest doing is I started vision boards. So you can do them in a scrapbook or on a board, and just what you want in the next 5 years of your life. And it can be material things or non-materialistic, like a family or love, friendships. It could be, I don't know, like a pair of jeans that you really want to wear but you know you can't wear because at the moment they just look awful on you because you're so underweight. It could be that you want a certain job which you can't have because you're too ill at the moment. Maybe you want to buy your first home, all these sort of things that you can't achieve because your eating disorder won't let you. That was really important for me, and that did really help, and I had it somewhere that I could see it every single day. Also, I found journaling, so like just writing down things I really wanted, and I also used to cut out pictures of girls who were really healthy, not fitness girls, like I mean like much curvier women, and just showing that they looked beautiful, and like it just kind of inspired me how like that I wanted it to look like that and that I could do it and still be healthy. I found affirmations really useful. So once I'd worked through what was really difficult for me from my childhood and what were my core wounds, things for me were like rejection and abandonment. So for me it was just saying to myself that I'm okay, I'm safe and I'm loved. And whenever something sort of affected me or I got a bit upset, I'd just say that to myself over and over in my head. And sometimes at first it sounds a bit silly because you might not believe it. Like you might not believe that you're okay, you might believe that you're loved. But just saying it to yourself rather than being like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world and no one loves me and I'm the worst person ever, is just reminding yourself that you are okay. So I found affirmations really useful. Although they were difficult to do, it's just about telling yourself that you are enough and that you are worthy of recovery and you are worthy of beating your eating disorder. I think it's also really important to stay connected with your friends if you can, and just do nice little things. So go to the cinema, go to a cafe for a coffee, you don't have to go for food, go for walks. Just hanging out with friends as well, not just family, because obviously family, it can cause tension. And also friends who have normal eating patterns and maybe are not super thin or anything like that. I found that really useful. Just friends I'd known for years were really important to my recovery. And on the topic of exercise, when I mentioned walking, I think it's really important that you don't exercise in your recovery. Gentle walking is okay, and I did a little bit of Pilates too when I'd reached a stable kind of weight. But obviously you need to be making sure that you're exercising for the right reasons, and your eating disorder will tell you that you're doing it for the right reasons, but you're not. It needs to come from within, and sometimes that can mean having a break from it whilst you restore your weight and going in with a intuitive mindset, so doing what feels good for your body and not what the media tells you that you need to be doing or what your eating disorder tells you need to be doing. So maybe when you're at a stable weight is looking for something that you haven't done before, a new sport or something a bit different, like maybe going for bike rides or not always going to the gym, basically looking for something different. It could be yoga. Yoga's brilliant in recovery because it really gets you connected to your breath and in touch with your body again, and it's not too high impact on your body. I also read quite a few books on my recovery, so I'm going to show you guys a few. One was really useful. This is called Life Without Ed. I used to call my eating disorder Ed as well, so like it really helped me distinguish it, that it was separate from me, so my eating disorder wasn't me. That's really useful in recovery as well, actually, like making sure you don't identify yourself as an anorexic or as the eating disorder. You are you were you way before it came along, so you need to separate the eating disorder from you and work on getting you back. So by calling it Ed, it was really useful for me because I'd be like, right, Ed's telling me this avocado is going to make me really fat and I can't eat this avocado because I'm going to be a bad person and I'm going to be a failure. And then obviously if I do eat the avocado, the eating disorder tells me I am a failure, I'm the worst person in the world, you're not worthy of living, all of these things. And then I was able to distinguish and be like, no, Chloe, that's not true. That's the eating disorder telling you that. You are a worthy person, you are okay, and you are worthy of eating the avocado. If you're watching this and you haven't had an eating disorder, and you might think this sounds a bit bonkers or doolally, whatever, but honestly, when you have it, it's actually horrific, and that is what it talks to you like. Anytime you eat, it will tell you that you are a failure, and this is why suicide is so high in people with anorexia, because they really do, it's their eating disorder telling them that they're not worthy of living and they're not worthy of eating. Anyway, going back to the book. So this is about a woman who got rid of her eating disorder, became independent from her eating disorder, and it's about her life without it. I just think it's a great book, so yeah, Life Without Ed is really good. Also read Breaking Free from Emotional Eating by Janine Roth. This was really useful for me, I think when I was a bit further along recovered and didn't want to get trapped into like diet culture, and it's just about really present when you eat and like listening to your body. Now that is important that you're quite recovered by that stage, because if you listen to your body when you have an eating disorder, that will be the anorexic telling you. So this is just things like you do suffer from emotional eating or you have binge eating disorder. This book can be really useful. The one by Janine Roth is Appetite, and this is more about like where you're getting your nourishment in life, and it's interesting because it's like it does talk about food but it also talks about other things, and just finding out how to nourish yourself without using outer sources, and like how to love you for you. So that, again, that's a Janine Roth book. Any of you are carers? My mum read this, which is Skills-Based Learning for Caring for a Loved One with an Eating Disorder by Janet Treasure. That's really, really good. Or maybe like if you've got someone in your family, a relative, it's just really important that you know how to use the right terminology and be around someone who has got an eating disorder, because it's very difficult and it is like having another person in the family. Something in recovery also to realise is that relapse is very normal and it will happen. It can happen lots of times, but just because you relapse lots doesn't mean that you can't fully recover. I only relapsed once, but I'm actually glad that I did, because it actually took me to my lowest point, and then I was really able to want my recovery. Don't worry if you've relapsed 4 or 5 times, as long as you're wanting to recover. That's what the key thing is to recovery, so you have to want it. If you have relapsed, then it's about working about what happened, and working maybe with your therapist on what was it that made the relapse happen and where can we kind of help that not happen again. So don't give up after relapse, because a relapse can be a sign that, you know, something you hadn't cured, whatever it was. An eating disorder, we all know, is a coping strategy for life. Most people use it to numb out life, it's just some way of them not control, I hate that word, but it's like, it is a coping mechanism for something that is not quite right for you. It could be some traumatic experiences, it could be just you as your personality, it's genetics, it's environmental factors, so many things go into starting an eating disorder. So it's really important that you work with your therapist on trying to work out why you have relapsed. Going back to, I just mentioned, anorexia is an escapism, especially if you are someone who's in inpatient treatment centres. I never got to that point, and my mum was desperate not for me to go into inpatient, even though my weight was critically low, and I basically had 1 week until I was going into the Priory near where we live because it was so bad. But my mum was just didn't want, because it is an escapism, and as soon as you go into a treatment centre it can be a bit like more of an escapism for you because you're away from the real world and you're in a little like bubble, I guess. But yeah, it means that when you recover it's going to be hard because you haven't got that anymore, and you haven't got that escapism. You haven't got ways to deal with real life situations and things that go wrong or things that go right. That can be quite overwhelming. So I think it's really important to expect that on your recovery, that small things can really hit you hard because you're so used to being able to turn to the eating disorder as a way to deal with things. It takes up a lot of your mind, so you can spend hours of your day in the eating disorder thinking about your next meal, what you've just eaten, planning out the whole next week. In the supermarket it can take you ages to do a food shop because all you're thinking about is, can I have this? Oh no, wait, that's too much. Okay, let's compare the products. It literally is so time consuming, and also if you have exercise as well played into that. But when you start to recover you have a lot more free time in your head, and you can use that. So learning, like finding new hobbies or reading books and things, and just learning about being present with yourself and not in the eating disorder. So meditation apps or meditation podcasts are really useful. Maybe reading some fiction books and just enjoying things that maybe you were not able to do before or that you've like forgotten about. So since I've really recovered in the last year, I have been doing things that I've just not done since I was 16, so that's 9 years ago. And just like I've really been enjoying music again, and just literally lying and listening to music or reading. I've been really enjoying fiction reading again because I used to just always read non-fiction, and I felt this pressure that I need to like learn something and read factual books, and now I'm just like, no, I'm just going to read fiction all the time and enjoy it. Like drawing, for me, I find drawing really relaxing. You can even buy like adult colouring in books now if you can't draw. I find drawing really relaxing, and you can just waste like 45 minutes rather than you spending those 45 minutes where you would have been in anorexia thinking about food, thinking about recipes, thinking about your next meal, or even sitting there ridden in guilt. So yeah, I think finding hobbies and not food or exercise related is really important. Lastly, I just want to talk about also social media. So I think you should definitely unfollow anything that's triggering. So even eating disorder recovery accounts can be quite triggering because when you're in recovery as well, you can start comparing yourself to them. And fashion models, underweight models, even fitness models, like when I say fitness models, I mean like ones who just post pictures of like their six packs and tanned, photoshopped, big boobs. Well, not always big boobs, but like, do you know what I mean? Just like perfect. Every picture is of them, and every picture is of their body, and every picture is perfect. I suggest following people like Body Posy Panda, she's brilliant, Scarred Not Scared, Chrissy Harrison, Laura Thomas, Sarah Vance, body positive memes. There's loads more brilliant body positive accounts. Also just following things like maybe like dog accounts or travelling accounts, photography accounts, NASA, Natural Geographic, just not always food related and not fitness related. So I think it's have a clean out of your Instagram, have a clean out of your YouTube channel. Look for people who do like variety and it's not just like food and not just fitness related. As you know, I haven't mentioned anything about food. I don't think it's my place to talk about what you should be eating because, to be honest with you, on my recovery I can't even remember what I ate. I definitely didn't have strict diet plans on my second recovery. The first one I did, but my second recovery was really about working out where this eating disorder had come from and then getting rid of that and letting go of the eating disorder and learning to cope with Chloe and dealing with the real world. And it really depends how critical you are, because if you're really critical, physically ill, you're going to need diet plans and stuff. I'm not qualified in that, and I don't think we really need to talk about that, because I know if you're watching this and you've got an eating disorder, you know you need to eat. and you know what you need to eat. It's the eating disorder that's stopping you do that. So there's no point me sitting here telling you what to eat, because you know that, and you can go and watch my other videos and see what I eat. Obviously, like, if your family haven't got disordered eating as well, you see what they eat every single day. So you guys know what to eat and you know what normal exercise is. So there's no point me sitting here talking about that to help you recover. What is important to help you recover is the things I mentioned. Just a brief summary of that is clearing out your social media, vision boards, journaling, reading some good books, hanging out with the right people, turning to your friends for support, not isolating yourself, talking to a good therapist, using affirmations, and also working out why you're using it as an escapism and ways that you can deal with the real life. I also, just to add, did actually take pictures of myself when I was ill and keep them on my phone as inspiration to gain weight, because I don't know if you're watching this, you might like the way you looked, but I did not like how I looked. And I used to cry most nights, desperate to get my figure back, and I just wanted to be healthy. I used to just cover myself in baggy clothes. I didn't want anyone to touch me. I didn't really go out. Like, and when I did, I'd just keep my head down because I didn't want anyone to look at me because I was so self-conscious. So I took pictures of myself because every time I was like, couldn't eat, I'd look at the picture and be like, I need to eat. Like, I know I do. I know that eating disorder is lying to me. I need to eat to live, because this cannot get worse. Like, I cannot lose weight. So for me, that was actually really helpful to take pictures of myself. And also it just means now that I can look back to see how far I've come, because sometimes I do forget just how many kilograms I've actually put on. I haven't obviously spoken about my eating disorder on here or what happened to me, but like I said, I'd really like to do a video about that in December time, and what it's like to have Christmas stress-free. We're on the rise, eating disorder. Said 1 in 5 people will die from anorexia. It has the highest mortality rate of all eating disorders. And because I have recovered, I think it's really, really important that I share this video, because if you're watching this and you are suffering, I'm really hoping that I can give you hope and tell you that your life is a million times better without it. I can't put it into words. Yeah, it's just so much better without it, honestly. Recovery is definitely worth it. So keep fighting. Even if you've relapsed, just keep going, because it's 100% worth it. And if you did like this video, please don't forget to subscribe. My Instagram is @_chloeinspires_, and I post on there every single day. I try and do stories as well. My email address is chloeinspires.coaching@gmail.com. So if any of you are interested in personal training, I wouldn't suggest that if you're not very well, but if you guys are well and you're interested in personal training or nutrition coaching, do drop me an email. Or even if you've got any questions about this video, then email me. It doesn't have to be personal training related. My website is www.chloeinspires.com, so you can go and check out my services on there. I've got testimonials, I've got my modelling portfolio, a few other things that I do are on there as well. Don't forget to give the video a like, share it with anyone that you think will be useful. This video will not get monetized because it's got the word eating disorder in it, and YouTube and advertisers do not like to associate themselves with eating disorders. So if you can share this video, because that's the only way that it's gonna get exposure, I'm not gonna earn any money from it, then I'd really, really appreciate that. Just send it to a friend. It might give them some hope, it might give them some ideas. I will see you guys in next week's video. Bye.